Spring session is in the books with the annual spring game. We didn't have one last year. Thankful to have one in Coral Gables this year, and always thankful to have the wholesome one on the line to break down Miami football for us. Following again, Team Hurricane against Team
Ibis.
You may have to explain that one to me, but we got the wholesome one here to talk Miami football. How's it going?
What's up? It's going well. I got an added sense of focus today, so I'm a little bit more serious. But it's a good day. From what I've seen the spring game, as I watched it from beginning to end, a little bit of surprises in there. I mean, De'Aaron King called plays for the fourth quarter, so that was really kind of cool. And I think that adds a different dynamic to the quarterback position to have someone who's been out there and who is an active member of your roster to get a different dive into how to call the plays and how it kind of goes together, how to create those drives, and he had 2 touchdown drives, so he did very, very well as an OC. And at the end of the day, it is a spring game. That's something that's kind of fun, but it's not too wonky. It's not too gimmicky. There wasn't a lot of trick plays or anything like that. He didn't one end around, but that was pretty solid. But the talk of this spring game will be 2 things: the offensive line play and Jake Garcia. A little bit of Jake Garcia above the offensive line play, because that young man, it showed what happens when you bring in quality talent at quarterback. He is the highest rated QB since Marv, who was before Jakai Harris, who came in as, I think it was like the #1 QB out of Cali. All right, but besides that, we influx number 64, Jalen Rivers, someone I've been talking to you all about consistently. We brought him in at left guard. That offensive line had a really big step up, and the guys look good. I mean, Corey Gaynor looks really good. Navon Donaldson in run blocking and in pass sets, something that a lot of people were a little iffy about him going backwards with his weight. At right tackle, DJ Scaife looked fine. He did it very well. Zion Nelson did very well also. So that unit there, and that's no disrespect to number 53, Jakai Clark, who came in and played center and was the second team left guard. He started out the game at left guard, but once we put 64 in, it was different. It was different at that left guard position, Mark. And you know it's something that I've talked about here for weeks, that it was gradually coming up. Once that size, that speed, that athleticism, a former left tackle, a high 4-star left tackle moved inside, usually works out very well for the offensive lineman.
Talking Miami football, post-spring game. Let's see who's on the line. Let's see what you got for us before I hit up the wholesome one with some of my questions. Jamar Williams, #Live Squad. Ronan and John were with us on the watch party on Patreon, and were hanging with me during my many phone calls with the cable company. So they had to hear all that while we were watching the game. Hey, Mark, like I said last week, Miami struggles with penalties. A lot of guys jumping off sides on the defensive front there early in the game. Needs to clean those up to complete in big games, but it was a good game.
That's a really good comment there. And I don't know where D's loyalty lies. I don't know if he's a Miami fan or not, but it was very frustrating to see the opening couple of minutes, because on both teams, Team Ibis and Team Hurricane, which people get it confused. Our mascot is not a duck. It is an ibis. It has biblical tie-ins. Who was the first one to brave the hurricane after the storm? Noah's Ark. It was the ibis who brought the leaves to let them know that the land is growing again. So it's all this religious stuff tied into it. That's how we got that's where that comes from.
Yeah, I didn't know any of that.
With ibis. Yeah. I mean, that's why we have our colors of green and orange, the color of life when green, and the color of rebirth in orange. That's why we picked both of them. White is the blossoming after the flood. So it's a whole bunch of religious stuff tied into our colors and why we picked our mascot and our name.
Okay.
So that's where it comes from.
I had never heard any of that. I didn't know that there was any connection to that.
Well, you're talking about a real Miami guy.
Well, I know that, but I would have thought that I would have heard that at some point from somebody. but I'm going to look a little bit more into that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, very cool. So, yeah, I noticed that, and I couldn't even get my full attention on the game because of some cable issues. But, man, I saw defensive linemen jumping off sides, a few of them there in the first two series.
And not only that, but we had holding. Zion Nelson with a key holding penalty after a really big play. Exactly. We looked very, very sloppy. Now, of course, let's be honest, okay? We had 15 of the players, and we talked about this. And of those 15, 11 were starters, all right? So we were dealing with a lot of young men out there to the point where now the spring game switched from it would have been a real team Ibis versus team Hurricane where we would have split the two starting QBs and they go against each other backed up by the third and fourth string QB. But since we had a lot of young men out, we just did first team versus first team, second team versus second team. That's how we did it. And that's how we mixed it up. Sometimes it did first team O out there against the second team D and flipped it back and forth as opposed to having two separate teams and you divide your full roster in half. Okay. So it was very, very sloppy. D. D. Wiggins with his drop passes, Mark Pope with early drop passes, false starts, jump off sides, all eerily similar of a team still trying to pull it together. The beautiful part about it, Mark, is we only had 2 penalties in the second half.
So I guess if there's something that we can still count on, it's D. Wiggins and especially Mark Pope dropping passes. I will say that if there's one guy that flashed for me, and again, I couldn't be as locked in as I wanted to be, but Kiacha Smith, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah,
okay.
2 tuggies.
I thought I saw that.
Yeah, and it's not just statistically. He made some really key catches. He made some third down catches. And the wild part about it, Mark, was it really was the first quarter for D. Wiggs and Pope. After that, they started catching almost everything that was thrown at them. So they pulled it together, of course. But, as a fan base, and we all get pretty emotional as we're watching the first little inkling of a game, and the same stuff that burned us last year is now showing up again early in the game. Of course, we're all getting a little emotional, but once they got their heads together, they caught their passes. I think both had about 4 or 5 receptions. They played well the second half, but that first half it still showed that they have the dropsies and a focus issue. All right, but especially Pope. Now, D. Wiggs at the end of the game, he had a key deep, like 40-yard reception, that's what he does. The deep posts, the bombs, that's D. Wiggs. But Pope was starting to come across the middle. He caught some shallow routes, some slants, some ends. I wouldn't be surprised if he had probably like 7 or 8, man. He caught pretty well third and fourth quarter, but it did flare up again in that first quarter with the Pope dropsies.
The first big Pope reception was a fly route. It was just a 9-go, and I thought, well, that thing was dropped right in the breadbasket. He caught it to his credit, but it wasn't a difficult catch. Now, I did think a few wholesome one as soon as D. Wiggins did cut loose, go up top and catch that 40-yarder, because you were just talking about that this week, that's his specialty.
Yeah, that's what he does. That's where it comes into what the job of a coach is to be able to dial it up the right way. Because if obviously this is what I have, you want to create a balanced player and add more things to the young man. But if it's been 4 years of him showing you this is who he is and what he brings to the table, why keep pushing against it? Put him in a game, put him in a situation to maximize his abilities to the highest level, and that's what he does. It's deep down the freaking football field, and they showed it a couple of times today.
And while we're on the passing game, even though I've got a couple defensive notes here, we'll stay with the passing game because that's most of the comments in the comment section. John Sarian says, my impression is Van Dyke may have the stronger arm. Garcia looked like he was competing for number 2 behind King. And Van Dyke came out the first couple drives, and he didn't have to make any kind of incredible throws, but he was making the throws that needed to be made. Yep.
Oh, yeah. And then Jake Garcia touches the field, and you're like, oh, this is what it looks like. This is what it feels like. Because he was moving so fast, obviously. It's his first time. He has the jitters, but then he kind of settles in, and you start seeing him climb that pocket. And that's something we have not seen at Miami in a while. Brad Kaya was very sporadic with it. I've seen it a little bit. Stephen Morris would kind of just take off. He wasn't really. I would be, to be honest with you, I can't even. Maybe Rozier sometimes, King sometimes last year. But to see him like slide to the right, okay, he feels the pressure. Slide up as he's also drifting away from the pressure and keeping his shoulders in the right position and be able to throw with great form, be mobile in the pocket. That's something we haven't really seen here at Miami in a while, and maybe not even ever.
So I'm going to make a couple
Like that.
impressions that may not necessarily make sense, but I'm going to let you call me on this because I think this is one of a couple reasons why you want that quarterback to climb in the pocket. Number one, it seems like to the average fan, you would think, why not just run out of that mess and get out of that mess and get to the open field? Well, for one thing, you cut down the field in half anytime you do that. And a right-handed quarterback's almost always, if he's got the opportunity, gonna go right. You almost always see it right. He's going to flush right and get out of that mess, and he's going to go right. Well, he's limited half the field. And number two, quarterbacks, as much as we would think that they can throw well on the run, they become decidedly less accurate when they're throwing on the run. It's a difficult thing to do. We do it out in the backyard and think that it's easy because there's nobody, that people are 12 yards away, and we grow up throwing like that. But in a game with pads on with superior athletes in the secondary, it's not an easy thing to do.
It's funny you say that because I was going to say try to go outside right now and do a play action and roll out. It's not as easy. Like, a couple of us, we've always dreamed of being a QB. And I remember like drifting and I'm thinking that I could, that's easy. And then you don't realize that with your body in the momentum going this way and having to force it to swing and throw this way while you're already still running like this. I was like, okay, all right, that's not as easy as
you tend to sail it. You tend to sail it, and especially if the receiver's moving. And then my third observation about climbing up in the pocket is we already know that it's difficult for the defensive backs to cover for 2.5 to 3.5 seconds, even if the play is going perfectly. Quarterback, boom, gets the ball. He sets up, boom, he gives maybe 1-2 looks, delivers. That's only about 3 seconds, and it's difficult to cover for that long. But think about the first second of that play, second and a half, is almost you're off the hook as a defensive back because the receiver's still just starting in his route. So if that quarterback climbs in the pocket, he's buying himself typically another 2 seconds. So that's a lot of time that those defensive backs have to continue to cover and hold that coverage.
Absolutely, which is why cornerback has become such a big premium position as far as being paid in the National Football League and also getting drafted higher and higher and higher in the NFL draft is because of that simple fact. Luke Walker, this dude. Anyway,
I didn't know what it was either. I didn't know if that was named after somebody. I didn't know what that was either when I saw that on the screen. Team Ibis, Team Hurricane.
So
I did not know.
You are a college football fazant, and you did not know that the Miami Hurricanes mascot was an ibis?
No, I had no idea.
Okay.
Must be a blind spot of mine. I don't keep up with mascots too well.
That's it. I mean, if I could see the comment section, I bet a whole bunch of people were like, oh, okay. You're probably not the only one, especially the backstory as to how we got to that as far as the orange, the green, and the white. Because people look at our colors and they're like, well, why would you put that together? But that's where you got the, blossoms, life, and rebirth. That's orange, green, and white.
This might be a very, very insignificant note, but to me, I like to see guys that can tackle in the open field. And so it was only the third or fourth play of the game, and we know that Jalen Knighton can scoot. And he was in the open field with nothing around him, and Kiacha Smith wrapped him up.
You know what position he was playing when he did that?
I don't No.
Weak side linebacker, which is insane. Screw the size. Give me speed because that's what this game is about. If they're a bigger safety, move them in the box. Speed, speed, speed. And that's what we needed to see today. Kiacha Smith did very well, especially in an early drive. And it's funny you say that because the more I'm trying to think back on it, I don't know, maybe did he get hurt or something? Because I don't remember seeing much of him past like those first couple of drives. Maybe he moved to other positions to where we didn't see much of him. But as far as him, it was 4-on-4 almost the entire time. If Knighton went to wide receiver, if Knighton was at back, he followed him and he just kind of was in his hip pocket the entire time.
Jaroon Johnson, number 88, needs to see more reps than 6 and 8, especially 8.
Yeah, Dante Johnson, he rocks number 88, which was an old number of Kiacha Smith. So a lot of people were getting it kind of confused. And then obviously when he scored a touchdown and they announced his name, like, oh, okay, he switched to 5. Just like Xavier Restrepo he's wearing number 7. But obviously if you're not watching practice or watching all of our videos, you wouldn't know about a couple of the number changes. But yes, that's what went down. So, and they have very eerily similar body types. But Johnson is a big dude. He might be like 6'4", 215. Like that dude is yoked. He's stacked real nice. And he made a couple key catches. And I don't know if he's a walk-on or transfer because I don't remember his like recruiting being a part, but I wish I could tell you. Maybe I'll come back to this video and feel stupid. Like, oh man, I missed his. Hey, he was a 2-star assigned to this class. But as of right now, I don't know. He has to have been a transfer or a walk-on of some sort. Maybe I don't know.
So this wide receiver competition going into August is going to be rather interesting to monitor. Some guys are going to have to kick it into gear if they want to keep their spots.
And if they don't get, well, you said it better than I was about to say it. I was going to say if they don't get their crap in the gear, some people are going to be real mad when parents ask for tickets to the game and they're watching you sit there.
All right, talking with the Wholesome One following the Miami spring game and taking your comments and questions as well. What else did I take note of here?
No, not that Johnson from Tennessee. Obviously,
no. That's DeAndre Johnson, the linebacker, outside linebacker, DN type. All right, everybody had to go off on the Mascot conversation. Yes, Dante, that shows your Miami blind spot. Are you watching the Ohio State spring game? No, not watching it. I'm DVRing it, Dante. That's what I'm doing right now. When they don't tackle, man, I just lose interest. It's a passing. I can only watch so much and take so much from, and Ohio State's not tackling at all. So I can only take so much.
Whoa. What do you mean they're not tackling?
No tackling.
What does that mean?
None from the first play. Urban Meyer in the past would kind of back off the tackling, like in the second half. He would say, okay, no, they're just wrapping together. They're basically touching everybody. It's a tap football game. It's basically I'm evaluating 3 quarterbacks and some wideouts against some DBs, but the rest of it's meaningless.
Okay, then I even go to our roster, and there is no number 88 on our roster.
I was looking at the same thing. I was trying to figure that out as well.
I don't want to spend too much time on that. Anyway, that further pushes it that he's probably a walk-on. And maybe that's where we get it from. But to get a walk-on, like, he's looking that good? Okay.
GT Sounds is asking about Scaife and Williams, numbers 51 and 62 at right tackle.
I've been very adamant about that right tackle position. I was very disappointed in 62's play. He has the size and the look that you want. He's 6'6", he's 312, he has super experience. He's long. Looks good. He moved no one. No one. All right. Then 51 goes out there and he was moving some folks, especially next to Navon Donaldson. In that O-line. What I loved, Mark, Manny Diaz is so big on blitzing, man. And to see that O-line picking dudes up, and when they got their mark, they stopped them. It wasn't like you ran into you and drove you a couple yards. No, 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 no. If a center picked up a linebacker, if Corey Gaynor or Jakai Clark picked up a blitzing linebacker, they stopped. You also saw Cam Harris come in and pick up whichever other linebacker or edge that the O-line couldn't if you go Ringo or Louis, or if you open up and then, big on where you have the O-line on D-line, running backs on backers, back and forth. The sacks really came from the QBs holding the ball too long. Besides that, if you talk about just snapping the football, I have a kick set, you have a pass rush, we interact. Okay, somebody works loose, somebody replaces hands. The O-line won the day almost 100% of the time. I wouldn't say they dominated, but as far as pass rush goes, they did. Tip of the cap, man. Tip of the cap to Garen Justice. Tip of the cap to their dedication to the craft, because they've been called out for half a decade. Or you could even say probably a whole decade at Miami. The O-line has been called out, and today, at least, I'm not saying they're going to win we got an Outlander winner, a Remington winner, first round. I'm not saying any of that. But as far as from what I saw today, now, does that speak to the defensive line not being up to par? I'll get to that. But right now, I'm giving the roses to the offensive line and how they play today. Very, very impressed and thankful for the progress on the offensive line.
I'll clarify something because I got some responses about the no tackling comment at the Ohio State spring game. Just like the Wholesome one said the other day, this isn't for us. This is for the coaches to evaluate. So that's not a criticism. I'm just saying I don't get a whole lot out of it. They need to do whatever they need to do to get the work in, stay healthy, do whatever they assess to be the best for their situation. We're just looking in. So I don't have a criticism of however teams want to do it. I'm just saying, for me personally, of course, the more you get to see it be more like real football, the more you can accurately evaluate all of it. So JT Sounds, H1, what's your take on how Dunson performed and how you think Avante fits in the starting group?
I don't know about throwing him into the starting group already. Let's calm the freak down. There we go again, getting all hopefully hopply. Okay, obviously he's doing well, but let's chill, man. Throwing him out there to start. I mean, now if he does, then I'm with you. But especially because Graven Hall has been so and his play, even today, he just was there. He dropped a couple interceptions, and he was just standing there. As far as Avante jumping off the screen, so I guess I can understand why you look at it like that. Okay. Dunson's performance. He's been the cornerback that no one's really talking about. And Dunson is Isaiah Dunson, number 29, 6'1" plus cornerback for the Miami Hurricanes. So for those of you who don't know who Dunson is, he was attacked, and sometimes he stood in the paint. He did have a couple receptions on him, but any cornerback does. I like the way he had open field tackling. I like the way he attacked the ball. I'm still a little eerie on those deep balls. Our corners still were not turning around and looking for the ball. Now that the completions were usually on DJ Ivy, we're kind of used to that here. So if anyone in the comment section can correct me, but for the most part, when that ball was up in the air, I didn't really see our corners turn around and look for the ball. And I'm still tired of seeing that at Miami. I mean, they weren't doing the whole trail. They use the trail technique when it's properly timed, and that is when you're in the trail, obviously. And DJ Ivy had one on D Wiggins that was just I mean, good play by Ivy, but more of just horrible catching. So Wiggs over the shoulder, he brings it in, and as they're falling, DJ Ivy punches the ball right out, incompletion. So yet again, it's a lapse in judgment. It's a lapse in effort by D Wiggs, but it's a big thumbs up for the effort of DJ Ivy.
Danny Q, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that. Can we all agree Tyler Van Dyke, Jake Garcia, way better than Mackenzie Milton. Keep up the good work, Mark. You're the man. One, all about the U. Are they better? Are they better?
Oh,
they're not
man.
game tested better, but are they better today? This is not 2017 or 2018, so we don't know if Mackenzie Milton is ever going to be the same.
And because he chose to go to an institution, I root that he never is.
I'm going to say that based on the reports, he hasn't had a great spring, but then he came out in the spring game and he threw some dimes.
I haven't even had a chance to I mean, you know why, but I haven't had a chance to really split too much more else.
He had a couple series that he threw 3 dimes that I can think of in particular that were great throws. But I don't know physically if he can match up with those guys at this point. Your thoughts on Peyton Matoko? Anything there?
He did well when he was in. I mean, he's kind of the odd man out. And I kind of feel bad for him. You know, it's like Miami's starting to get it at QB with bringing in back-to-back 4-stars. And then you got another one coming in Jakai Brown, because we all understand that T. Martin's son probably never played down here. We accept that, and that's cool. It was fun for the commitment. It looked good, but we all know that he's going to go be a millionaire with baseball. Earn your money. Earn your money.
And then it's probably inconsequential, but the last big passing play of the day was, again, Kiacha Smith hauling one in, but this time it was from Ryan Risk. And that was a nice ball over the top. And I noticed the defensive back he played it well. He put his hand in between Keyshawn's 2 hands, like you're taught to do, but Keyshawn was still able to wrestle it away, keep it.
And that's what you have to do. I mean, the ball is, once it's in the air, it's yours. You have to have that mentality as a defensive back. You have to have that mentality as anyone who catches that ball. Running back, wide receiver, tight end. You have to have that mentality that when that ball is in the air, it is yours. You have to attack it. And that's what the difference between the two was, that one went up to attack it. The other one reacted to the other person attacking the ball. And that's where you come from. And then that simple want to basically rake it away from the defensive back as you're falling down, because you know you're going to absorb a blow from hitting the ground. But you kind of, hey, I got to have that ball. I have to have that freaking football.
Terrence Templeton, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that. Even when people don't have questions, man, we so much appreciate you just saying, hey, we appreciate the content. Keep it up. That's what Terrence has for us there. Appreciate the content, fellas. Keep it up. D as well. Thank you so much for the super chat. Tremendous. Dante and others letting us know North Carolina spring game is next Saturday. Okay, we'll be on top of that. Here we go. Anthony, wholesome one. How did the young receivers that we got from the previous recruiting class, meaning 20, perform today during the spring game?
Xavier Restrepo had him a nice touchdown in the game, which from one angle it looked like it was out of bounds, but then when they replayed it from the back end, so he's going up and it's one of those corner routes, so you throw it to the back pylon, and so he's going up, and this is crazy because I've never done it, I'm a big dude, but he goes up for the ball, and as he launches off of his right foot, so he's jumping with his right foot up. And then he kind of bicycles his legs to where he can get that right foot back down before he falls out. I mean, that's something that if you know wide receiver, you'll be able to speak to. But it was like, whoa. How are you able to jump off of one leg and then kick the other leg to swing that leg back down to get your foot? Because if he put his left leg down, he would have been out of bounds. But then he forces that right foot back and have that focus to be able to do that in midair while coming down and keeping the ball. I mean, great freaking play. I couldn't have did that. That was real cool to see. And that may be something that'll go over people's heads and then they go back and rewatch it and they're like, oh, wow. But I have an attention to detail complexity. So little stuff like that stands out to me. He did very well. And again, I want Xavier Restrepo to be Xavier Restrepo. I'm not asking him to be Wes Welker. I'm not asking him to be what's the other guy that everybody's talking about should be in the Hall of Fame or should not
Julian
be in the Hall of
Edelman.
Edelman. Can somebody have a good career? When I was just bashing he retired and now everybody's just like in his face about whether he's a Hall of Famer or not. I'm like, bro, I'm just retired. Like, can I get a good job? Like, good career, have a good life. We know you're gonna come out of retirement to be with the Buccaneers, and we'll see you in a couple months. But, geez,
Yeah,
Louise.
that's not going to be up for debate for 5 years.
It's like,
It's going to be 5 years before anybody can vote on that. So,
but I also think that it is because people don't realize that as soon as he retired, the Pro Football Hall of Fame put out a tweet saying, and even I quote tweeted it and it was like, eligible for what? Because they put it out that he'll be eligible in 5 years. So they started the conversation and it
okay.
sparked into all this other stuff. And you can check my timeline for it to verify, but it blew my mind that they would even do that. And then back out of the conversation and let everybody just go at this man for a whole week. Anyway, back to Xavier Restrepo. All right. I don't want people to box this young man into who he needs to be with all these other wide receivers who historically look and play similar to how we see right now. No. Let's send him the best energy to be freaking Xavier Restrepo. The best that he can be as a receiving threat for the Miami Hurricanes. We don't need him to be anybody else. He's not like he's Xavier freaking Restrepo. He's the X-Man. Let him be him, please. Because I already see the BS in the comment section. We're not here for that crap, man. Let him be him, please.
We'll let JT Sounds be JT Sounds, asking H1 what's your take on how we think the linebackers are doing as a group today.
I like that. We're going to let JT Sounds be JT Sounds. Oh, man, you got a couple good ones up your sleeve. I like that.
Every so often.
I like that.
What's your take on 53 and 5's play today?
You know, all that hype, man. All that hype. You get on the stage, you get in the game, and guys disappear. Guys just, I do not remember a play that 53 made at all. I remember seeing 5 shoestring tackle somebody early on, and I do not remember them making a play. They, I wouldn't call them irrelevant, but I don't know, man. But then I also spoke to how good this offensive line was playing. So DJ Scaife basically made 53 null and void. We also have Carter learning a new position as a striker, safety striker mix. So he made a couple tackles, but he didn't do anything extraordinary. He didn't get a targeting penalty, so that's good. We did have Keyshawn Washington come and blast. Was it Pope that he blasted, or I thought it was Worsham? I think he blasted Worsham, 84. That dude looks real good. You remember what I'm talking about? That's Worsham, wide receiver from Alabama,
Oh, yeah.
former Alabama commit.
But I don't remember that play.
So he came into Miami at like 168 pounds, something like that, because he had hip surgery, and the hip is very vital to the rest of the body. So it took him a while to get back in the groove. He's from is it 2 recruiting classes ago now? Yeah. And so now his physique and his play is all starting to build back up again. So I like what I'm seeing from that.
Anthony's reminded of Braxton Berrios, comparing him and his work ethic to the X-Man.
Cam Kitchen. Okay, King Kane 305. Cam Kitchen. Man, listen. Mark, every time there are certain players that you see it. There's young men that, and I'm not here to compare all of them. Of course, Devontae Williams made his plays, but the one I really liked was Cam Kitchen. Loved his film. Of course, y'all know I'm a big Miami Northwestern fan, even though I played at a different school. But that's just how it is in Dade County. You know, at one point, everybody wanted to be a Bull. That's just how it is in Dade. I don't know too much about those Broward dudes, but as far as 305 Dade County, at some point, everybody wanted to be a Bull, whether it was at Pop Warner Parks or at high school, man. Either you want to beat the Bulls or you want to beat the Bulls. That's how it is in Dade. Anyhow, Cam Kitchens is just like he played in this 3 shell defense where they played one high and they kept a safety in the box. All right, so they kind of played like a 3-3 stack, but they had the 2 corners on the outside and they always had Cam over top. And that was his thing. He would go sideline to sideline tracking that football. So he's big time. In the show today, he had his first interception, even though it's a spring game. He had an interception. I believe it was on Garcia.
Was that on the deep throw down the middle that was overthrown and behind the receiver that just kind of fell right in his lap?
Right.
I didn't know who that was that picked that off.
From how I said that, I think it might have been Peyton Matoka because of how like it was kind of off and he hadn't had many reps. That was the weird part. Like once Matoka was able to keep getting the reps and getting the throws and getting past like his 8th, 10th, 12th throw, then he started to do a lot better. But obviously, early on in his passing, he was real cold because it was back and forth between Garcia, TVD, and then they threw Matoka in cold after halftime, so it took him a little bit.
Here's the guy I'd like to ask you about, Wholesome One, and I'll remind everyone that the Wholesome One's helping us out on Miami post-game talk here, so please show some love a number of ways. You got the Super Chat available. Hit the like button, share the videos on social media, do all those things to help out both the Wholesome One and myself. Head on over to his channel. Of course, watch the videos, take part in the live streams, and subscribe over there as well. I don't know if he had enough significant plays out there for you to get a real good take, but you talk about hype, and it's not unfounded hype because he had a nice season at Georgia, but Tyreke Stevenson, any thoughts about him?
Yes. So Tyreke Stevenson had a couple of plays there where he was like, oh, it was a little bit of a pause there with some of the stuff that was going on, but then he settled into the game and then things didn't get overboard. I mean, there's this whole talk on social media about every highlight tape they put up, Tyreke Stevenson's getting bombed. It's like, are they going to upload the Tyreke Stevenson PBU to the 3-minute highlight tape that they put out? You think they're really going to do that? No.
Pass breakups aren't affected. The average fan doesn't want to see pass breakups. I want to see them, but most people don't want to see them.
It's just weird. So for everybody who has something slick to say about Tyreke Stevenson, I'll tell you this much. He's probably the best cornerback we've had since Brandon Harris, maybe. And that was well over a decade ago. Former 2nd-round draft pick.
Wow.
Yeah, already. Tracy Howard, but he also played in that horrible Mark No D'Onofrio. Okay. Artie Burns had that really good season and really struck while the iron was hot. So thank God for him. He he was able to hop on that, but then we all saw what happened when he got to the NFL. We all saw. So it's
Wasn't
not
Trajan
really.
Bandy supposed to be?
I mean, Mark, there's only so much you can do at 5'7.5".
Yeah.
You know, when you're a nickel, yes, but when you're thought of to go out and be a true number one, I don't know. And I'm not a heightist. I mean, I'm not 6'5", so. But at the end of the day, you understand limitations plus really bad strength and conditioning messed him up, man. He was looking like a pretty pudgy running back towards the end of his time here at Miami, and it didn't look good. But anyway, Tyreke Stevenson, as far as all he brings to the table, size, length, football IQ, SEC experience, man. I listen. He's big time. He's big time.
Dante clarifying for us that Washington hit Redding in the back and Redding didn't return to the game. That pissed me off. You don't headhunt your own teammates.
Well, it's football, man. Come on, dog. It's football. It's football. Okay, first off, there was two plays. Up down the sideline, of course, was when Redding goes up for the ball and Keyshawn hits him. Yes, you can argue that he probably shouldn't have did it, but at the same time, come on, man. Now, the second one I understand because he forced a fumble. All right, I get that one, and it was kind of close to the head, but it wasn't the head. So I get where that argument comes in. But you play football fast. You play football hard. Of course, you don't go out to hurt your own teammates, but hitting somebody from the in between the neck and the waist, I would almost always call clean. Now, if you're hitting somebody waist down too hard, that's not clean. You hit somebody neck up, that's not clean. But if I'm hitting you hard in the shoulder, hard in the back, hard in the stomach, that's football. That's football. That's football.
It's going to be somewhat tough for these guys because obviously it's full throttle, full go, everything within the rules in play during a regular game. And this is played in a sense, except for the quarterback, as a regular game. But, you know, football is such an intensity, full throttle, got to go 100%. If you don't, you're going to get hurt. You're going to look bad. Bad things are going to happen to you if you're not going full throttle all the time. But they're in this situation where they are playing their teammates. It is a spring game, but you're competing for jobs. You're competing for your position. And you are playing football. And if you let up playing football, you can't. It's just not a sport you can let up playing.
It's just that simple. I'm gonna go ahead and give a couple more of my final takes before I
Yep.
head out of here. We're
Absolutely.
getting kind of close here. All right, so we'll go position by position. We've already discussed offensive line. I was very, very pleased with the offensive line. Very pleased at how they played today as a unit. And Mark, if you go back to one of the big questions you asked me, what is one of the things you want to see? What are some of the big things you want to see in this spring game? And I said the offensive line playing as a cohesive unit. When 64 was infused to that offensive line, it did. Really, really, really like that. Really like the way that they played, man. And I'm not satisfied, but I'm happy. I also noticed with not having any scholarship tight ends available for the spring game, it showed kind of a little bit more of a Big 12 type of look, Pac-12 kind of look to the Miami Hurricanes. Obviously, you never want to get rid of tight end, but it was kind of cool to see Coach Rhett Lashley be able to not have 11 personnel in the game and just really go with wide receivers out there. I really enjoyed seeing how he put it together, throwing the ball without his tight ends and running the ball without his tight ends. Running backs. There had been this huge argument about this back over that back over this back, and today you saw a cohesive unit be used and multiple backs be used. That's all. It just makes sense. That's just what you're supposed to do. Okay. Jalen Knighton did technically start the game, but that was because his side was on offense first. So Cam Harris gets in the game. And at the end of the day, I don't care who you start. Let all these young men get touches and be put in pretty good positions. They all made plays. Jalen Knight was the only one to score. I think he broke on like a 23-yard stretch play. So it's really good. I like seeing that and how he played. And that was right behind Jalen Rivers at left guard. It was supposed to be a stretch, and then he saw Rivers slam down and climb. He hit it. Nobody touched him. Hey, I'm sorry. I'm just saying. Sorry, not sorry. I'm just saying that young man adds a different level to this O line, and he made a big difference today. Quarterback, very, very pleased. It brings a real nice smile to my face to see those young men stand up in the paint and really thrive. One a little higher than the other as far as Jake Garcia, but at the end of the day, they both played. TVD started to strike back because he obviously felt like he didn't want Garcia to outshine him. You know, I'm nice too. I got this. I've been here a little longer. I could do it. And they did well. Peyton Matoka comes in and also does his thing towards the end there. Proud of him. Also, Risk towards the end threw a nice touchdown that was kind of cool. He may never start here, but he has that moment on national TV. So I'm happy for that young man. Also, wide receivers, it was a little iffy when it came to the beginning of the game, when it came to 6 and 8. But after a while, I mean, we've done this whole time, and I have not brought up Rambo. That dude, man, I'm trying not to get excited. I'm trying not to get too excited because throughout the whole broadcast, they kept talking about how he had an iffy 2020, but if he could tap back into 2019, the guy that gave Alabama problems when they were in that exact same stadium
Yep.
in the playoff game, he did well. He did very well. And it wasn't just deep bombs. He caught everything out, slants, comebacks, curls, posts. He caught almost every. I don't even think he had a drop. Did very well. And him and Tyreke Stevenson were kind of going back and forth. But when he was on, when we had DJ Ivy covering him, it was easy money for him. He tore DJ Ivy to shreds, which we're all used to seeing here. So that's how that works. No tight end to talk about. So with the defensive side of the ball, very disappointed in the defensive line. Very, very disappointed. But at the same time, I have to have the understanding that you can't necessarily call one side doing so well and then turn around and say the people that they were going up against now sucks. So that's not what I'm saying. I was just disappointed in the lack of fight. I think they didn't fight back. Jafari Harvey made a couple plays here and there. Um, I saw a TFL from John Ford. Miller did nothing. 53 did nothing. It just, I need to see some fight back. Obviously, if you're going to get some pretty good O-line, they make plays, then obviously you want to turn around and make a couple plays yourself also, and I didn't see much of that. Linebacker, the only person that did anything today was Kiacha Smith. Very happy for him as a weak side linebacker. Gilbert Frierson was also kind of out of the game. He was there, but because the striker usually is the person that covers the tight ends, with no tight ends in the game, I don't even know if we really went for 4-2-5. It looks like we just gave majority 4-3, with a lot of them either in the box or just covering slots. So didn't really hear much from them. But that could also be a good thing because that means he wasn't getting beaten coverage. So you can look at it that way also. Everybody had all this hype around Huff and Flag. Neither one of them did much today. Either BJ Jennings is a scholarship player. Safety, Cam Kitchen stood out. Avante Williams stood out. At cornerback, you saw Isaiah Dunson. You also saw Tyra Stevenson make some plays. Everybody else was just meh. So there's a lot. There's a lot to build on when it comes to the defense at the University of Miami. And under Coach Benny Diaz, they will get better. And once they get the influx of their starters added, you're also talking about adding 2 5-stars who are coming in less than a month to the day. When James Williams and Leonard Taylor walk through that door, I don't know. It's about to get good. And if people don't start making some changes on the defensive line, some snaps are going to be taken away. I'm just saying. Sorry, not sorry. But hey, I appreciate it. I got to get out of here. Thank you so much, Mark, for letting me come on and do the
Thank
post
you
spring
so much,
game.
Wholesome One. And if you
Appreciate
got
you.
30 seconds, I think you might want to hear what's on these super chats real quick. King Kane 305, thank you so much for that. Roger Shaw, no real comment, just excited to see some of the new guys look very respectable, especially Rambo in the offensive line and Tyreke and Garcia. Kasami 47 Crip, thank you so much. Look at that. Smartest show and commentators on YouTube.
Thank you.
Kasami, thank you so much for that recognition. We appreciate
I
that so
appreciate that.
much. Vicious Technique. Come Up by Vicious Technique is now available on all music streaming platforms. Go Canes. So we'll pass on that advertisement because of the super chat there. Wholesome One, thank you so much for stopping by. We know that you have so much going on in your life, so thank you for the contribution as always. You know that.
Absolutely, man. Go Canes. Hey, if you guys got some free time, there's a game on ESPN Plus you might want to tune into. You might see somebody familiar.
That's it. Beautiful. All right, Wholesome One on the line with us, and I wanted to stay on here for just another second or two. Ohio State just wrapped up its spring game. We know that Alabama started at 2, I believe, at 2, maybe at 1. I've got that on DVR. Georgia and other teams from the SEC are going at it today as well. Let me see, because I'm going to have to kind of strategize at what I'm going to do here, because I did not see much of the Ohio State game and didn't want to go on live when I didn't see it. But at the same time, people are going to be wanting to see some Ohio State coverage. Let me look at everybody else today. So I'm going to get to as much coverage as possible today, which means Cincinnati, Mississippi State, Ohio State, TCU, Vanderbilt. Yes, Vanderbilt. I'm the voice of college football. Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Georgia, Texas Tech, Utah. I'm even skipping some of the group of 5 that are somewhat insignificant. Arkansas, USC, Utah State. So there's a lot to cover there. And we've got a Monday night Big Ten Network game with Illinois at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So again, thank you so much, everybody. And I will figure out what I need to do to Mr. HD. Nice assemblage here today. You said 158 in the chat. I think we broke 160, but at the same time, not necessarily record views, maybe record views on the game. We've had 350 on Miami Live before. 350. We've hit 350. And during the college football playoff, during Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, Notre Dame, in that time frame, we hit over 900. So we'd like to get back up to those numbers. We should be in the 1,000 range all the time and then tap out around 2,000 or 3,000. We need to get to those levels here soon. But I appreciate everybody so much. You guys are amazing. BGPO Football Funk. I'm going to figure out the best way to attack this spring football today since I missed the Ohio State game. I want to catch up on Alabama as well. And I listed off all those other teams that are playing today that I want to see. There's no way to DVR the streaming service, though, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to try to catch it online later. I went through the ESPNU menu, and there are no spring games being replayed. I don't know about I don't believe on the SEC network today. I went through the menu on the SEC network. I saw no replays today. ACC network, I don't know, but there would be nobody but Miami in the ACC playing today. So we might be a little stuck in trying to catch up with some of these as well. Live Squad 305, good to see you. Leon as well. Always appreciate you being here. Mike 3883, thanks for the like. Appreciate that. And everybody else. And again, DeAndre, thank you so much for the support. DeAndre gets it. He knows that if you can chip in with a couple bucks here and there, and if everyone would do that, wow, we could keep this going for decades. All right. Thank you so much. You guys were amazing today. We had a great crowd in here. Great contribution, great questions, great comments. the likes. Please get those taken care of as you leave, and keep the notifications on, because I will be coming back at some point when I determine when to talk Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, and others right here at the Voice of College Football. We'll see you soon.